There is a moment after divorce when the hardest part is not the paperwork, not the empty apartment, and not even the silence at night. The hardest part is realizing that the person who once knew every weak place in you can now speak to you as if nothing happened. One day she is cold, the next day she is polite, then she suddenly becomes warm, soft, almost familiar again. And if you are not careful, that small change in her voice can make you think that maybe something is returning. Maybe she regrets it. Maybe she understands what she broke. But in many cases, that is exactly where the trap begins. After divorce, communication with your ex-wife rarely stays stable. It moves in waves. Sometimes she acts friendly. Sometimes she pressures you. Sometimes she attacks. Sometimes she disappears completely. And a man who does not understand this rhythm can get pulled into it again and again, reacting emotionally every time her mood changes. That is why you need to understand what is happening before you respond to it. The first phase often looks harmless. She suddenly becomes kind. She asks how you are. She asks what you are doing. She may even speak to you in that calm, civilized tone, as if you are two mature adults who simply went through an unfortunate life event. For a man who is still wounded, this can feel like a good sign. You may think, maybe she finally sees what happened. Maybe she still cares. Maybe we can at least have some warmth between us. But look deeper. If she betrayed you, left the family, or emotionally abandoned the marriage, your coldness becomes a mirror. Every short answer reminds her that something serious happened. Every dry exchange about the children tells her that you no longer see her the same way. And that creates discomfort, not necessarily remorse. Discomfort. There is a difference. So she may try to soften the atmosphere. She may say, let's not ruin our relationship. We are adults. We should not create drama. We need to communicate normally for the children. Maybe we can even be friends. On the surface, it sounds reasonable. Underneath, it can mean something else. She wants the consequences of the divorce without the moral weight of the divorce. She wants the family to be broken, but she does not want to feel like the person who broke it. She wants you to behave as if everything is fine, because if you behave normally, she can tell herself that nothing truly terrible happened. And if you accept that role too quickly, you help her rewrite the story. You make it easier for her to believe that she did not do much damage, that it was just life, just a difficult period, just two adults moving on. But for you and for the children, it may not feel like just life. It may feel like the collapse of the home. That is why your distance matters. Not aggression, not shouting, not revenge. Distance, controlled, calm, consistent distance. She must understand that the relationship changed because her actions changed it. You are not her friend now. You are not her emotional support. You are not the man she can casually check in with whenever she wants to feel less guilty. You are the father of the children, and communication should stay inside that frame. Sooner or later, she will test the boundary. She may ask, "How is work?" You answer, "Fine." She may say, "I heard your boss changed." You answer, "Yes." She may mention that the kids told her you took them somewhere. You answer only what is needed. No emotional details, no long stories, no warm little conversation that quietly pulls you back into the old dynamic. You are not being rude, you are being clear. Then comes the second phase. When she realizes that friendliness does not open the door, pressure may begin. This is when the conversation becomes heavier. She may accuse you of harming the children with your attitude. She may say that your coldness makes everything worse. She may try to put the emotional burden of the divorce onto your reaction instead of her decision. But the children are not suffering because you answer briefly. They are suffering because the family broke apart. If she truly believes the children would be better in a complete family, then the obvious question is simple. Why not restore the family? If she does not want that, then the children should not be used as a shield in arguments. A child usually wants both parents together. A child does not care about adult justifications, romantic feelings, or new relationships. A child wants home to feel whole. She may also say, "You are acting like a child." And the answer is simple. No, I am acting like someone who was betrayed. That is not childish. That is a consequence. A man does not owe warmth to someone who damaged his trust. He owes discipline. He owes responsibility toward the children, but he does not owe emotional comfort to the person who created the wound. At some point, anger may appear. This surprises many men. They think, why is she angry at me? She left. She made the choice. She caused this. But that is exactly why the anger appears. A person who betrays often needs to turn the betrayed person into the villain. Otherwise, the truth becomes too uncomfortable. If you remain calm, distant, and morally clear, you become living evidence of what happened. That is hard to tolerate. This is why some ex-wives begin throwing strange accusations. You may have supported the family for years, and suddenly she says you oppressed her the whole time. You may have carried responsibilities quietly, and now she describes you like the source of all her suffering. The purpose is not always truth. Sometimes the purpose is provocation. She wants you to defend yourself. She wants you to argue. Because the moment you start defending yourself against nonsense, you accept the court she created in her head. Do not do that. Absurd accusations do not need a trial. They need distance. The more you argue with a distorted version of reality, the more you give that version power. You do not need to convince a person who benefits from misunderstanding you. You need to stay focused on what matters: children, logistics, responsibilities, boundaries. Then comes another shift. A new man appears in her life, and suddenly her behavior may become unpredictable. Sometimes she becomes calmer, sometimes even softer. Why? Because she no longer needs to fight you in her mind as much. You are now officially the past. Someone else is occupying the emotional center of her life, and when that happens, she may treat you with a neutral politeness that almost feels strange. But another thing can happen too. Her personality may begin to change. Her words, habits, values, even the way she looks at the world may shift under the influence of the new man. When some people fall in love, they do not just enter a relationship. They adapt, they mirror, they absorb the worldview of the person they now want approval from. You may have lived with her for 10 years and believed you knew her completely. Then a new man appears, and within weeks she seems like someone else. Different opinions, different priorities, different tone, different habits. It can be shocking, but it does not always mean she found herself. Sometimes it simply means she adjusted herself to the new center of power in her life. This is also why her mood after divorce can swing so dramatically. On Monday, she is furious. On Tuesday, she is calm. On Wednesday, she ignores you. On Thursday, she sends photos of the kids. On Friday, she tells you that you ruined her life. It can look random, but often it is not random at all. Her emotional state may be connected to what is happening in her new relationship. If she is angry, something may not be going the way she imagined. Maybe the new man is not ready to commit. Maybe he is less serious than she expected. Maybe the fantasy is meeting reality. If she disappears and answers slowly, perhaps things are going well, and you are simply not important in that moment. If she suddenly moves closer, starts talking more, asks personal questions, or tries to create warmth again, it may mean the new relationship is weakening, or she has started comparing him to you and found something missing. If she becomes hysterical and says you destroyed her life, that may be the sound of disappointment spilling out in the wrong direction. If she becomes cold, official, and avoids unnecessary contact, maybe the new man is jealous and pressures her about communicating with you. If she begins complaining about how hard life is, that may be the stage where the dream begins to crack. She expected a new life to solve old problems, but the problems stayed, and the new relationship may have added more. If she starts praising the new man too loudly, saying he is better than you in every way, pay attention. People rarely advertise certainty when they truly feel it. Sometimes, loud comparison is a mask for doubt. If she was completely secure in that choice, she would not need to sell it to you. The darkest stage is when children become part of the conflict. If she begins turning them against you, that is not strength, that is desperation. It can mean she understands somewhere deep inside that the family was destroyed and there is no easy way back. Pride blocks one door, resentment blocks another, and when a person cannot forgive herself, she may try to punish the person who reminds her of the mistake. This is why you must not become weaker in front of her, not because you are made of stone and not because you feel nothing. You may feel everything. You may miss your children so badly that the silence in your home feels physical. You may wake up and expect to hear their voices, then remember they are not there. You may want to say, I am in pain, I miss them, I never wanted this life. But understand what can happen if you say it to the wrong person. She may not respond with compassion, she may respond with anger, because in her version of the divorce there is only one main victim, and she has already taken that place. Your pain threatens that story. If you suffer openly, it challenges the narrative that only she was hurt, only she endured, only she had reasons. That is why your tears may irritate her instead of moving her. A stranger may show more sympathy than she does. A random man in a bar may understand. A taxi driver may say, Brother, stay strong. Children are sacred. Even someone with no connection to you may feel the weight of what you lost. But the mother of your children may look at your pain and feel nothing but resistance because your pain reminds her of her responsibility. There is another uncomfortable truth. As long as you are present, you carry another version of the story. You know what happened. You know what was said. You know what was done. You can tell the children your side one day. You can tell mutual friends the details she would rather erase. Your existence prevents her from becoming the only narrator. That does not mean you should live in paranoia. It means you should understand why some people want the past buried. A divorced woman can be questioned. A widow is sympathized with. A person whose former partner is gone can reshape the story without resistance. That is a harsh thought, but divorce can reveal harsh things in people. Betrayal clouds judgment. Desire clouds conscience, and when a person crosses certain lines, the mind starts protecting itself with ugly fantasies and convenient excuses. But this state does not last forever. Reality has a way of returning. A person can run from guilt for a while. They can cover it with romance, anger, pride, new plans, new people, but eventually the noise gets quieter, and when it does, the consequences remain. That is why revenge is useless. You do not need to destroy her. You do not need to chase justice with your own hands. Life has a way of balancing accounts. People who cause pain often meet that pain later, sometimes in forms they did not expect. You may one day see the person who harmed you trapped in the consequences of their own choices, and you may not even feel satisfaction. You may only feel tired, maybe even pity. So your task is not revenge. Your task is control. Control over your words, control over your reactions, control over your access. When you speak to your ex-wife, do not unload your resentment. Do not say, "How could you do this to me?" Do not beg for recognition. Do not attack. Aggression and pleading both reveal the same thing, that she still has too much power over your inner state. Speak evenly, calmly, with distance. There should be no performance, no cruelty, no emotional explosion, but there should be a clear note of disappointment. She should feel that the door to casual closeness is closed. Most importantly, do not discuss unnecessary topics, not news, not politics, not the weather, not memories, not personal life, not emotional reflections. A full, warm conversation belongs to friends, partners, or people moving closer to each other. She is no longer in that category. She is the woman with whom you share children. That is the lane. When the conversation is about the children, be detailed. Ask what you need to ask. Clarify schedules, health, school, behavior, plans, money, documents. Everything connected to the children can be discussed calmly and responsibly, but every side road should be cut short. If she asks a casual question, understand what may be happening. She may be testing you. She wants to see whether you still react to her, whether you still soften, whether she can still pull you into a familiar rhythm. If you immediately become involved, if you start joking, explaining, sharing, discussing, then she understands your emotional position. She sees that the boundary is weak. But if you answer briefly, let the conversation lose energy, and then return it to the children, the message is clear. There are borders now. The relationship changed. Access changed, and she cannot cross those lines simply because she feels like it today. That is how you communicate after divorce when children are involved. Not with hatred, not with chaos, not with endless arguments. Calm, controlled, focused, and distant. You do not need to prove your pain. You do not need to win every accusation. You do not need to help her feel innocent. You need to remain a father, remain stable, and never forget what changed.